Welcome to Finbot Insights. Today we're telling the story of a man who changed investing forever for millions of regular people. And he didn't do it with some complicated secret formula. He did it with an idea that was so simple, it was radical. He weaponized the idea of being average.
And look, when Warren Buffett, arguably the most successful investor of all time, says something like that, you know it's not just hot air. That's incredibly high praise, and it hints at the scale of the revolution that Jack Bogle started. It's a fair question. Saving them from what? Well, to really get why Bogle's achievement was so huge, you first have to understand the world he was trying to change. It was a system that promised big returns and expert guidance, but for most people, that's not what it delivered at all. Back in the middle of the 20th century, the whole mutual fund game was pretty much rigged against the average person. It was this whole ecosystem built on high fees and a belief in expert stock pickers. A system that made the industry insiders very rich, usually at the expense of their own customers. And this wasn't just a feeling people had, it was a fact, backed up by some serious research. Paul Samuelson, a Nobel Prize-winning economist, spent a decade studying this and came back with stone-cold proof. For most investors, trying to beat the market with these funds was a guaranteed way to lose. Samuelson's work just dismantled the industry's arguments piece by piece. He found that even the so-called star managers couldn't beat the market year after year. And even if a genius manager did exist, good luck finding them ahead of time. Worse, all the constant buying and selling just racked up huge costs that ate away at your returns. His final conclusion was a bombshell. What investors really needed was a simple, low-cost fund that didn't try to be clever but just track the overall market, like the S&P 500. So you really have two completely different philosophies clashing here. On one side, you have active management, this whole expensive quest to find a genius who can beat the market. On the other side, you have this new, theoretical idea of passive indexing, which had a much humbler goal: just match the market and get its returns as cheaply as possible. So into this broken system steps Jack Bogle. Armed with Samuelson's research, he came up with a truly radical solution. He didn't just create a new product, he created a whole new kind of company, built on an entirely different philosophy. The solution was the index fund, and the idea is just beautiful in its simplicity. Instead of trying to find the one winning needle in a haystack, Bogle said, why don't we just buy the whole haystack? For the very first time, this made it possible for any investor to own a slice of the entire market, just by buying one thing. And the company he built, Vanguard, was based on three core rules. Each one of them was a direct attack on how Wall Street made its money. He promised ultra-low fees, he got rid of sales commissions so brokers had no incentive to push his funds, and he didn't pay any fat bonuses to managers for just doing their job. Now, to prove he was serious, Bogle did something absolutely unheard of. He set up Vanguard's corporate structure so that the company is owned by the people who invest in its funds, not by him. By making that one decision, it's estimated he gave up the chance to build a personal fortune of over $50 billion. It's an incredible testament to his belief in the mission. As you can probably guess, the rest of Wall Street did not roll out the welcome mat. Bogle's creation wasn't just a new product, it was a direct threat to their entire, incredibly profitable business model. And so, the establishment prepared for war. The entire Wall Street fee machine, as you could call it, threw everything it had at this new idea. It started a massive, coordinated smear campaign to discredit passive investing and convince everyone that Jack Bogle was a fool. And they weren't exactly hiding it. Competing firms took out full-page ads in the Wall Street Journal with headlines like, "No load? No way." No load just means no sales commission. This was a clear message to financial advisors everywhere. If you sell this thing, you won't get paid. And to investors, their message was simple, but it was psychologically brilliant. They just kept asking, why would you ever settle for being average? It's a great question that plays on our ambition. The only problem is they conveniently forgot to mention that after you paid their high fees, average was actually way better than what most of them were delivering. And for a long time, the smear campaign worked. The first index fund was widely mocked as Bogle's folly. For over a decade, Vanguard just struggled to survive. Even in the middle of a huge bull market in the 80s, they barely grew because the brokers who controlled everything just refused to sell a product that didn't line their pockets. So for years, it looked like the insiders were going to win. But then, a massive event shook the markets to their core, and in the chaos, the genius of Bogle's model was finally revealed to the world. That event was the Black Monday crash of 1987.
When markets are flying high, it's pretty easy to overlook how much you're paying in fees. But when the market crashes, suddenly those fees are impossible to ignore. People started looking at their account statements and realizing just how much money was being siphoned off by their fund managers.
And right after that crash, everything changed. The slow trickle of money going into index funds turned into an absolute tidal wave. The evidence was suddenly crystal clear for everyone to see, and investors started voting with their dollars. The idea everyone had laughed at went from a few million to over $8 trillion.
The triumph of passive investing caused a series of earthquakes across the financial world. First, fees for all kinds of funds were forced down dramatically. Then, Bogle's competitors realized if you can't beat them, join them, and started launching their own index funds. The internet then helped investors bypass brokers entirely, and Wall Street, always clever, just pivoted to creating even more exclusive, high-fee products for the super rich.
Years later, Paul Samuelson, the economist whose research helped kickstart this whole thing, put it all in perspective. He said, Bogle's invention was as important as the wheel and the alphabet. I mean, just think about that. That's the level of importance we're talking about. There's no question Jack Bogle won a monumental battle for the average investor. He leveled a playing field that had been tilted for decades. But the financial industry never stops changing, never stops creating new, complex things. And that leaves us with a really important question to think about for the future. Thanks so much for joining us for this Finbot Insights Explainer. If you want us to keep making content that breaks down these complex financial topics, the best thing you can do is click that like button and subscribe for more deep dives. We'll see you next time.